Okay, looks like the webinar is ready. We are ready. Are you ready? Yes. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for being here. I know it's Sunday evening and you can be in so many other places and you chose to be here, so thank you. This is the first time we are doing this program in this format with Dr. Safaeian. And so many of you might know me from my meditations or other gatherings. So this is the first time we are doing it this way. And hopefully at the end, it's clear why we are doing it the way we are doing it today. I don't know if you want to close the doors, because I think there's, thank you, Pupacha.
The people in the back, they say that they're doing, I can either do a microphone with the speaker, or we can speak a little loud.
Okay, I try to speak louder. If not, please let us know. Because you you can speak for yourself. Dr. Safaeian has a little bit of cold, no contagious, nothing. So we might need the microphone, but we have to see. So a little bit of house rules. Please, please, please put your phone on the silent. If it's possible, turn it off. And if there is something that you need to take care of, go out. Please feel free. It's not by any means you have to see the entire time, because I know we said 2 to 5 p.m. and then we have some breaks in between, but for any reason, you need to feel free to do that. And then we have some index cards and pens. If you know that you might have a question, write it down. And then at the end, we have about 20, 30 minutes time for the Q&A. So we can, during that time, we can do that rather than just, cut the conversation. And beside that, I think that's it. So it's the floor for you.
As Noushin said, thank you very much for joining us today. The way that this whole thing came about was Noushin approached me a few months ago and asked me if I will join her in this process to talk about self-discovery overall. And my role today is to talk about the scientific clinical aspects of mind and body and soul, and then Noushin will integrate that into the whole spirituality and other components of self-awareness, basically. The goal is to rise the self-awareness and help every one of us to be more in touch and more conscious and in contact with ourselves, and try different ways of discovering our inner soul through our conscious, subconscious, unconscious, and basically try to develop from all aspects of our daily lives. So I thank Noushin for your invitation, and hopefully my part will be complementary to what you have to say. And we will just play it back and forth and make sure that the audience gets the answer that they need to some of their questions. The way that we look at it in mental health and psychology, even though a lot of people use the soul and the mind interchangeably, scientifically we have separated them and we look at it differently. We look at the mind as a mechanism that basically orders a lot of the different components of our lives in terms of our daily functioning, activities, knowledge, decision-making, etc. And the soul, the way that we look at it, not in a religious perspective that they say that the soul leaves the body when you die, we look at it as more like a subconscious component of our being, that a lot of the decisions that are not necessarily black and white gets processed in their own way in our subconscious and unconscious, and then they get applied into our delivery mode, which at that time gets mixed in with our conscious mind. The soul, overall in psychology, we see the soul purely as a spiritual nature of humankind, that we don't necessarily look for much logic or science behind it in terms of validity, accuracy, different aspects of what's real and what's not real. The soul is supposed to be free. It's supposed to travel wherever and everywhere that we want. The soul is supposed to be the guiding light of our inner personality for our awareness and our decision-making process.
I think somebody.
Disrupted it.
No, somebody. Because we are doing the webinar on Zoom, people that they cannot be here personally, either they are in town or anywhere in the world. So.
We see the mind as elements of thinking, mainly reasoning and applying knowledge to what we see and what we are. But before we get into nuts and bolts of what we have prepared for today, we like to ask the audience, what are some of your expectations from today's session that we can make sure that we gear our approach, our talk, to what you are looking for based on the short description that you have read as far as embarking on a journey of self-discovery. So help us out, give us some of your thoughts, ideas, so we will make sure that we are congruent with what the audience is hoping for, is looking for. And not everybody talk at once, please.
Maybe a technique or a process that I can use, maybe in a year or so. I feel like I'm not exactly in control of or know what I am, and I can call and, just try to find myself.
Okay, okay.
It's coming up.
Great. What else?
I actually don't expect a lot because I don't think self-discovery is going to happen overnight, but like it sparked something that can challenge me.
Okay, all right. Let me ask you this. How many of you really feel like you're in touch with your inner soul? And when you talk about self-discovery, you're really in touch with yourself, with your unconscious, with your subconscious mainly. And when you think of who am I and what am I all about? And how comfortable are you when you get into that zone of thinking that, doing your own self-analysis? Oh, Iskandar, being married to a therapist, you got all the answers. Okay.
But I've been trying to basically observe myself rather than be myself. So,
What do you mean by that? Observing versus being?
I mean, what happens, right? What happens to us, whether it's something that someone tells you or an incident or somebody cuts you while you're driving and so forth. That could become you,
Mhm.
or you could be an observer of that. And that's
Okay, okay.
Get
Okay.
more detail to that.
Who else has something to offer regarding self-discovery and
Thank you.
Very in touch with my subconscious, but it's not easy.
Mhm,
Very
mhm.
And I think it started at first with the cognitive things, knowing your mind from intellectual level, to just know your triggered ones. But then you need to add some kind of energy, psychology to get in touch with your emotion, because I believe that emotion memory is just live in separate place, and it's difficult. Sometimes it's very, very hurtful. So that is why I cannot, I have to do that really very carefully and know that then I should stop.
Mhm, mhm,
But I know how to get my subconscious
Mhm.
through meditation, through contemplation,
mhm,
and
Mhm.
different techniques,
Mhm.
like chakra,
mhm.
balance, yeah, it's like that.
Very good point. It's not an easy process, and it's not a happening. It is a process that whoever decides to go through the journey, you need to really be mentally ready to accept a lot of things. It is painful because you have to face a lot of the shortcomings. You have to face a lot of the ugliness of our inner soul, which we all have, and you have to face it. Many people feel the need to do that, to discover that, but they don't have the ability to do it. They seek help for therapy. They go through different modalities, ayahuasca, the other ways of exploring on their inner self to really discover that who they are and what role do their subconscious or unconscious plays in who they have become, basically. Because again, the decision-making process and the way that we rule ourselves is through our mind, necessarily not through our soul. And the soul being guided again by our subconscious and oftentimes by unconscious can lead us to places that may not be really pleasant for us. And again, yeah, it can become painful. So thank you for sharing that. It's not an easy route. However, self-discovery has shown proven it opens up a lot of gates and doors to our inner ability to really magnify our strength and power to do things that we always are shy or embarrassed about doing them. And it just amazes people that the power it contains itself. Noushin, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you had a question or
Yes,
comment.
Sir Ansari.
Just a comment.
Mhm.
I think the value of feedback we get from friends and people that we contact,
Mhm, mhm.
those are those things that help us to
Yes,
get to know ourselves.
as long as they are heartfelt and as long as they are sincere, because oftentimes we tend to skip over that part and we tell each other whatever the other person would like to hear from us. But you do sense the genuineness, you do sense the sincerity of some of the comments that people give us, and you determine that how much of it is really you and how much of it you can apply to yourself versus what you are hearing is basically a nice comment, nice gesture, a compliment that you receive. So you're right. A sincere comment, a true friend can play a huge role in helping you to discover yourself as well,
Including their body language.
including the body posture. Yes, yes, yes. There is a whole psychology behind body language, body posture that is unspoken, but you can talk volumes about it. Yes, absolutely. Uh, Introducing ourselves, most of you know us, but just for the sake of formalities, I'm Max Safaeian. I'm a PhD psychologist. I've been practicing for 35 years. I work with a lot of family dynamics, inner personalities, and addiction. I am in private practice. I have worked with different generations, if you will, from children, adolescents, adult to geriatrics. And I'm a graduate of University of Utah and been in Arizona since year 2002.
And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Noushin, and for the past 20 years, all my trainings and courses that I took is based on mind, body, spirit, whatever covers that, from being a Kundalini yoga teacher or work with the international worldwide company for more than 12 years and lead many leadership programs and human potential, or being a massage therapist. Anything that connects with mind, body, spirit. I'm doing it for the past 20 years. And recently I gear more towards the coaching with what we see happening around the world. And as I mentioned, my trainings are from shamanic or kundalini, whatever is just through the energy and what this body, what this vessel we can use to better ourselves, because of the world needs every single one of us and how we can do that. And as you mentioned, it's not going to happen overnight. It's very difficult. And not to scare you, but that's the only way to truly enjoy life, not for ourselves, but for our community and friends and family and world. So it's our intention to have this conversation be a conduit, a method that sparks something that you can go within and start something new for yourself. And many of you, I'm sure, I know you are doing a lot of work on yourself and teaching it to others. But our intention is so you have clear distinction. What's the mind? What's the soul? What's the connection? And how we can work with those two aspects more easily and fun.
There are a lot of myth and reality regarding mind and soul that people oftentimes disclose to us, and they ask us questions as to how do we see them different. The reality is that the mind is basically that element of thinking and decision-making, as I mentioned, whereas the soul is purely emotions. And with the mind, you cannot express pain, express growth, express emotions that have to do with our daily existence. Whereas the soul is basically a conduit of all those things involved. And oftentimes we think the mind is in control if making a decision, but in reality, the soul is what is guiding the mind and helping the mind to basically see what is the right course of action. Sometimes we end up making a mistake and we keep on blaming ourselves rather than looking at the facts, different elements of what led us to make that decision. We keep on going into the blame mode of blaming our inner soul, of thinking that, well, that wasn't really a conscious decision that I made, therefore it came out wrong. The reality is that your soul is your gut feeling. Oftentimes your gut feeling is your right feeling, basically. And the way that this whole conversation came about, oftentimes I get approached by clients asking me that, help me to figure out what's going on with me in my life. And when I ask them that, my first question to them is that, explain who you are and what are you all about? If you were going to write an essay about yourself, but in a very informal way, what would you tell me about yourself? You'll be amazed how often I get this look on their face that I have no idea what to tell you. They actually tell me that I have no idea what to tell you. I can tell you logically where I went to school, when I got married, when I did this, when I did that. But as far as who I am, I don't know what to tell you, which is not true. We all know who we are and what we are all about. How we actually bring it out and how we allow it to basically be expressed is not easy. And it's an art of our inner soul to be able to describe who we are and what we are all about. And when we go through the process of helping them to, okay, identify yourself through these elements, through these different steps of human mind evolution to help them to basically figure out who they are, oftentimes they get stuck in one zone of thinking, okay, now that I know this, what do I do now? I'm stuck with it. This is painful. I can't handle it. I can't deal with this. Now what? That's when we offer them different modalities of meditation, guided imagery, if they're interested in more aggressive ways of getting in touch with their inner soul, really feeling their own internal DNA. Again, modalities like aggressives, like ayahuasca, and other ways of really digging way too into your inner soul. And that's where the process starts for them. And that's where people like Noushin's experts will come in handy, because again, it is customized to who we are. I always tell people that don't forget, we all have one fingerprint and we are unique to ourselves. So whatever I preach to you does not mean it will apply to XYZ. It has to be you. It has to be heartfelt. It has to be really coming from your own soul and mind and body that makes it real, that you can resonate with it. So
I'm just gonna not explain, but the mind might have a question that what's ayahuasca that he's referring to, and not many people might know, because we will have a section we talk about, as you mentioned, that the tools and conversations that we can use to better ourselves. So we get to that point, but just to mention what ayahuasca is, a plant medicine from the jungle of Amazon, and there are two different wines that they combine with each other, and then you drink it if you are into it, and then it just like opens up the gate of your consciousness, and it's very potent. It's very real, but it's not the main conversation. That it's just one of the ways that how you can open up the gates of your consciousness or subconscious and have direct access to it. And just in case if you had a question about it. And
take it away, Noushin.
okay. So if you are ready, we're just going to have very, very short meditation in between. While we are doing it, as I mentioned at the beginning, we want to make sure that there is a distinction between the mind and the soul. And how we can do that is by quieting the mind. So we talked about the mind and a little bit of the structure of it. So we're just going to put that aside and then go a little bit deeper within ourselves. And not one of us are exactly like the other one, not even sister brothers, not parents and kids. We are all very, very individually unique. So however works for you, it just works for you. So I don't know if you want to dim the lights a little bit. And for those of you sitting right there, the speaker is behind you. So if you notice the sound is just coming from there. So just close your eyes if you may. You don't have to. But just like when you turn off your cell phone or your computer or your TV, by closing your eyes, you are closing another window to the outside. By doing that, we are allowing ourselves to go a little bit deeper. And you might be challenged with so many different thoughts. It's racing in the mind. Just watch it like a bird in the sky or the clouds. Just let it go. And the best way you can do is just pay attention to your breath. You are conscious of your body. Make sure your spine is straight. that helps the energy to move more freely towards the spine. Take a deep, deep, deep breath. However your breath is coming, because most of us, we are used to breathe from the chest. But that's just the breathing. But the prana, which is the life force, it's coming from the navel point. Actually, a little bit below the navel point. If it helps you, you can put your hands on your belly button a little bit lower. And then take the breath from that point. And then bring the breath all the way up. It helps if you can imagine that your belly is getting bigger like a balloon. And allow the breath come all the way from your diaphragm, pass through your heart. Even you can feel it through your shoulders and neck. That's how you can control it and bring it up. When you feel like you cannot hold any more breath for yourself, pause a couple seconds and then let it go. When you want to let go of your breath, pull your belly back in, like you want to push it towards your spine. So in that way, your diaphragm comes up, helps the lungs to release all the stale air that is sitting right there. You are not expanding our lungs enough. If you feel like you are sleepy, that's okay. Move your body a little bit, because that's the mechanic of the mind wants to pull us from what we intentionally want to do. Wiggle your toes, wake yourself up, and take another deep breath. Some of you might feel dizziness. Perfectly okay, because the body is not used to that much oxygen. Some of you might feel some numbness, different parts of the body. That's perfectly okay as well, because we are always so busy with the mind and not paying attention to every part of the body. If you're wearing glasses, you might not even feel your glasses, because we get used to it. If I ask you to feel your toes, you might feel it. But before that, that even didn't exist for you. And none of that is wrong. It's just the way it is. Make sure you're paying attention to your breath, to your body. After a couple minutes, don't be surprised if you can feel your heartbeat. Take another deep breath and pay attention to the air under your nose. Pay attention if you are breathing through both nostrils. Just observing, no judging, no analyzing, just observing what's happening in this magnificent body. And sometimes even we don't get a chance to say hello to it. Get up in the morning and go. Almost done. Allow yourself a couple more deep breaths. Observe your thoughts. What you need to do after here, or what made you to get here. Just let it all go. One more long, deep breath. Feel free to let go of your breath with a sigh. Don't be shy. Let it go. And do it all together. Deep breath. Ah. That feels good to you. Do it one more time. Ah. When you're ready, move your hands, wiggle your toes. Make sure you are coming back to the room. However it was for you, it was perfect. Welcome back.
Thank you, Noushin. Notice that through the process, what she walked you through, there was also the component of the physical aspect of our body. Oftentimes, when we talk about a conflict with a client and we see them being stuck in one zone that they cannot get out, we always look at it as basically your soul being entrapped in a cage that it's not able to get out and really breathe. The whole component of breathing and being in touch with your inner self has to do with how we hold on to anger, frustration, desperation, a variety of different negative stuff that we think are contaminating our soul. And breathing is one of the main components of cleaning that soul and allowing it to breathe. Oftentimes, we use the breathing mechanisms as a method of helping clients who have been through trauma and who have been overly anxious, and their anxiety does not allow them to step forward in dealing with other problems. Also, with the guided imagery that kind of Noushin walked you through is what we also use in eye movement therapy and helping clients with combination of eye movement and the guided imagery, helping them to go into their inner soul and deal with most of the traumas that they have experienced in life. It's strange for them. It's not a type of hypnotherapy. Oftentimes people confuse the two. This is still your awareness and being present, whereas hypnotherapy, you are not present. It's basically your unconscious is doing all the work for you. So there is a disconnect there that we are not really too crazy about that. Whereas this approach of meditation, being in touch with your physical aspect of your system versus basically your inner soul, is the most effective way for also for us to apply in psychotherapy with different dynamics. One of the, well, I will stop here.
Okay.
I'll come back to it.
Anybody would like to share? Did you feel any difference the way you were listening before you did a short meditation or after? Was there any difference for you, or you came back right away to the room, to the conversation? Mhm. Okay. Mhm. Okay. So was there any different for you to were listening before and then we calm the mind a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Yes.
I think breathing for me caused a certain level of tranquility,
Mm-hmm.
and that made me a little bit more open to the conversation that I'm listening,
Mm-hmm.
and basically hearing it a little bit more vivid,
Okay. So like clarity.
more clarity.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Yes.
There
Mm-hmm.
were thinking.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And also, add about breathing. Breathing in non-conscious feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Then we do that unconsciously, which most of the time is maintenance.
Yes.
But conscious breathing, which is different kind of pranayama.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Very much, because I barely touch on that, but at the end we more go into it, because the breathing is just like given. The heart beats, the mind thinks, and we just breathe. We even sometimes take it for granted. But the prana, like consciously breathing to bring the life force, because that prana is in the body, but it's not active, as many we call it kundalini. It's not active. It takes some effort. It takes some conscious breathing and other, yoga, kriyas to active that life force. Many of us, we're just like going through life, like, and this is not bad. We are wired that way. But the point of being here, and I'm so, so, so grateful for each and one of you that you came, is to have that, use the prana, what you want in life, what you want to do in life. Yes, the money, the house, the husband and the wife and the kids and dogs, and they're all great. But what's underneath of that, which we're gonna go deeper to that.
Well,
Checking if anybody
one of the
has-
things that we oftentimes hear from our clients is their physical pain that gets basically exacerbated by their emotional status, and they can't figure out where the pain is coming from. Medically, from a physical point of view, it cannot get diagnosed, and they get really concerned because they feel is the pain is real to them, but yet they can't figure out what to do with it. Oftentimes, the breathing exercises helps them to let loose of a lot of the nerves that have been tangled up in their system and allow them and their muscles to basically let loose of a lot of the tension that they're feeling. They get really surprised when they go through the different breathing exercises, and when they sense that looseness in their mind and their body, they see how it affects them physically, and they bring a lot of things into their own realization that how much the daily stress that they carry with them, not being aware of utilizing their breathing skills, how effective it can be to help them to handle the daily stress that they go through. So a lot of the things that you hear are really more of common things that it's a common denominator that all of us have within us, but none of it is really a shocking thing to us unless it gets pointed out to us, that we get reminded that we have these resources within ourselves to tap into. It doesn't necessarily has to be a way of scientific way of different modalities to help us help ourselves. It's just a very natural process that our body and mind goes through. This is obviously not for severe cases that we see in therapy of heavy trauma, other stuff that has been basically exacerbated with other aspects of mental health. But as far as the basic self-discovery and noticing body, noticing our mind, noticing our soul, that's really the basic blueprint, if you will, to really tap into our subconscious and realize that where we stand.
So I know you want to explain
Oh.
about the left and right side of the
Yes.
brain, because I can do it as a cranial therapist, but I want to hear
Sure.
from your perspective.
Noushin asked me to talk about the mind and structure of the mind and how the brain functions and different hemisphere of the brain, left and right, and their unique functionality and how they complement each other. It's really a myth when people say that, oh, your right brain or your left brain, oh, therefore you can't really tap into the other side. That is not true at all, at all. For the most part, yes, the right brain is basically the creative side of our thinking, our processing, and all of that. And the left brain is more of the logical calculation and things like that. However, we do balance it to the best of our ability. And yes, depending on our level of functioning, depending on our IQ, our IQ, we take it into different categories and different levels. Our capacity of our brain, we only use 1/3 of the capacity of the brain in terms of going through our daily functions. There is a lot more that a brain is capable of doing, a lot more that it can go into our, again, our subconscious, unconscious, that we don't allow it to go that far. However, the creativity that you see with geniuses, if you will, that we all know in history, they have a mechanism that the brain constantly complements each other, each side of the brain, and brings out the strength and weaknesses of the other side, basically to deploy a message, a product, an idea, understanding that they have in mind. Mr. Ansari? John?
What do you think would common that you need us go through this meditation exercise, more oxygen than body, and basically all you ordered that helps our body
Mhm.
and making decision and do things was clear and real.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's a lifeline that it's not just physiological. It's also a lifeline for our mental clarity and capacity.
We're hearing that online people can't hear the question, so
Oh.
people repeat it. That way they can then
The-
remember.
Okay, it was a comment that a gentleman made that doing the meditation helped him to feel more to the body, and that was a comment. And the answer, there's no answer. It's great. Yes, one of the best ways to connect to the body and know the mind and differentiate is through the meditation and breathing. Thank you.
The structure of the mind and the brain, which they go synonymous, it has three different components. It's the id, it's the ego, and the superego. Most of our impulse reactions, impulse decisions are made within that id zone, which is really our subconscious that gets to drive a lot of the decisions that we make. And the structure that the mind has is we look at it as three different compartments, if you will. It's the sensations, it's the images, and it's the affection that we each bring into every decision making that we have, whether it has to do in terms of managing a process, whether in terms of raising a kid, whether in terms of doing business, our daily routines, basically. Those three elements are the main component of our what we call mental elements that constitute our conscious experience that we live with. Anything else that you wanted me to add to the brain part?
I just want to add something that left and right side of the brain in the yoga training, we refer to as masculine and feminine. The right side represents the male side, masculine side, and the left side is the feminine, the women side. And neither of them is good or bad. And it doesn't matter that either we associate ourselves as a man or as a woman, we both have that. And it's the Kundalini energy that comes up and interact with each other. And the whole idea is to come up or come off of this duality and reach to the unity. They are both one. But I think in the conversation we hear, like, oh, it's just like so manly or masculine or A-type, all that. But the main idea is not wrong, it's not bad. If a woman is single and needs to use her own masculine energy to deal with life, it's perfect. It shows that she's balanced. Or if a man cooks and cleans and loves babies, it's great because it means that he is in touch with his own femininity, and it's not a bad thing. It's our mind to make it judge, this is bad, this is good, it has to be this way, it has to be that way. No, we are all of it, and all of it is perfect. The only time is just like we become right-minded or left-minded. And we are not bending in connecting those two. It is just my way or highway. That's when the problem starts. And one more thing is just like, make sure you're having fun. I know it's a kind of serious conversation, but if you're not having fun, the mind, I promise you, and the soul for sure, it's not enjoying it. So however, make it fun for yourself. Listen to it in a fun way. And if you want to apply it in your life, do it in a fun way. There is no seriousness in life at all. So
What Noushin mentioned is when we get stuck thinking in only one hemisphere of our brain side, we tend to generalize and categorize things that are not really true and are not really a fair way of looking at things. As she mentioned, in every one of us, there is a femininity and a masculinity. Doesn't matter how old, how young, we all have it, we are born with. When we get stuck in one of the hemispheres and we start thinking and rationalizing things, we don't allow every piece of our basically DNA for our mind to come out and really manifest itself in who we are. Whereas if we allow and let loose of both sides of the brain to complement one another, it's easier to accept ourselves, it's easier to discover ourselves, because you're more sincere, you're more honest and upfront with yourself than trying to run away from certain aspects of our personality and who we are.
and actually, we love those people that we see, oh, they are just so great in their own skin. Oh, they are just so free. We love that. But for some reason, either our culture, I think we are all Persians, all culture or upbringing or school or whatever, it just like make it that, no, keep yourself together. Don't show your emotion. Don't laugh too loud. Don't raise your voice. All of that. And it's, again, it's not wrong. It's just the way it is. And the soul is not free. Soul is not having fun.
I have a question.
Sure.
So the whole concept of, if you're more right brain or left brain, and the fact that either is important, right? But because I think we've all seen people that are more creative and analytical, and people that are more analytical and creative. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some of those people, they're not aware that that they're more dominant. They just see the world through that lens, right? So, I mean, you can't just tell them, start managing the two hemispheres of your head, right? Because they're stuck on one side and they just can't relate to it.
The control aspect or the dominant aspect of it has to do with a lot of it has to do with the personalities. Pardon me. And how deficient we are in certain aspects of our personality that we don't feel secure enough to allow both sides of the brain to contribute to what we do and who we are. It's our comfort zone that we tap into, that if we don't feel comfortable with certain aspect of who we are and we get into denial or what we are faced with, it's easier to get stuck in one zone, not really allowing ourselves to be explored in other areas. Oftentimes what we see in people who have an strong need to control, we see them as people who tend to be very black and white and without any margins in life to allow things to kind of come into them. It's their own filtration and insecurities that forces them basically to be stuck in one zone because it's more comfortable and more accepting to them. Some of it is through our upbringing, some of it is through our training, some of it, unfortunately, with us, it's through our culture that we were not introduced to the other aspect, the other side of the brain, and whatever we were faced with, we had to accept it and deal with it. Give you an example, I'm left-handed myself. first grade, I got punished by a teacher telling me that I was retarded because I was left-handed. That stuck with me for a long, long time. I don't think I'm retarded, but it really stuck with me. Why? Because it wasn't acceptable. It wasn't within the norm to be left-handed. And again, being left-handed also quantifies people psychologically, that they tend to be more in touch with the feminine side than the masculine side. And they tap into both sides of the brain in terms of decision-making and creativity in decision-making. But it was really more of, I guess, ignorant cultural upbringing, that certain things were passed on to us that it took us a long, long time to really see if that really applied to our personality or not. But again, it was a force, it was a control mechanism that we all go through it with different aspects and aspects of our upbringing.
And
So to answer your question, yes, it's the dominant part is when we try to block it. Otherwise, there is nothing really preventing us to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone, trying to get to the other side and see how we can utilize those resources. We look at it in psychology as faculties, that what faculties are available for us to learn from and to extract things from in order to be able to develop a bigger inner self for ourselves.
Well, I guess the point of this would be, you don't know that you have all, you won't try to fix it.
true,
You only see things in one way, one lens, and therefore you're perfect and everybody else is wrong. So you don't try to correct it.
correct. We have a section for Q&A, so we definitely come back to this topic, but just because it's here, we cannot ignore it. It's here. The question and the comment is here. It's a lot of time life makes us, wants us, and draw from us what we need to function in the world. I'm sure many of you heard, like older woman, the child is under the car and she goes and pushes up the car. Where that energy comes from, she uses all her might. So it is in her, but if you see her, it's just like the tiny little things. So a lot of times life wants us to act in a certain way, but who are we? Who am I to judge? This is too much. You are too feminine. You are too masculine. These are all the mind that, we are just having this conversation. This is just a mind judgment. Everything in that moment that is happening is perfect. And to your point, if I don't know the things that I'm doing is wrong for some people, I don't know. There are many things I don't know that I don't know. Correct? So it's in the conversation, in the training, in the coaching, in the sessions like that, that we navigate that. Oh, I want to know more about myself, because even as you mentioned, we are just like a mirror to each other, but barely even the people that we trust and we love so much, we don't get the right answer. So the right answer is just within us. Some people might say, and then we are not accepting, and 5 years down the road, wow, they were right. I'm this way. But until I recognize that, nothing gonna happen until I see it for myself. Many people can point it, but I can see it. I cannot correct myself. And the correction is just another judgment. It was for that moment, for that reason, it was perfect. Yes.
Just to add to what you said, sometimes with your intellect, but you need to know that with your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing with your intellect is very easy, but just
Yes.
bringing that to your heart
Yes.
and feel it with your heart is not that easy.
Embodiment.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And it's
then
scary for some people.
Natural.
It's scary for some people because it's an unknown territory to go into. It takes a lot of guts to allow yourself to go there and explore on those things, because it's not structured. And whenever we operate outside of the structure, it is nerve-wracking. It is very uncomfortable for people.
Yes. Yeah. It's so easy to see other people and point out, and that's the hardest one, to look this way. And that's why one of the intention is just to spark a conversation that don't be scared. It's scary, but don't be scared. It's running the show every time. So why not get in touch with it? Why not be friend with it?
Junjun, do you want
Are
to transition into
Okay.
your section, and then we can do questions and answers? There might be more questions then.
Yes. That was the structure, but who says that we're gonna follow this?
Never, it never works. Yeah.
Doesn't work for me.
If there is a rule, break it.
Know the rules first, and then so you can break it.
And then break them. Yes.
So for the next segment, we're just gonna go a little bit deeper to our mind and in our body. So if you are ready, and first of all, if you need to use the restroom, because I was reminded that make sure that I give break, because we said 2 to 5, and I know it might be a long time for so many of us. If you like to use the restroom, we can have a 5 minutes break, if that's something you would like to. Oh, that's great. Yes. So if you want to do that, if not, yes. For those of you that the first time you are here, there's a restroom just right outside this door, and there's one over there.
Can take a look and break.
Yes, of course.
So you can stop the board and.
Thank you, Faiza. We are taking about 10 minutes break, and we're gonna come back. Recording, it's right here.
Oh,
Pause?
here, yeah.
Pause.
I think pause.
Pause, yes.
Did it pause?
It
Yeah,
is.
I think.
Pause. You can change it. You want me to do it from
Okay.
this way?